It looks like we have most, if not everybody here. So we are going to get started. I want to make sure I'm respectful of everybody's time here today. And so, first and foremost, thank you so much for joining us today for quarter three of Integrated Wellbeing Consulting's quarterly free workshops that we do. And so, really hard to believe that we are somehow most of the way or over at least half the way done through 2025, but really excited to continue these workshops. We'll have another one coming in Q4, probably looking at November, December for that, because we're going to really be focusing on gearing up for the holidays, looking at the end of the year and how we can do that in a way that's healthy and supportive to our mental well-being, knowing that sometimes those end of the year goals, those resolutions, all of that can be really challenging and can potentially be unwell for our mental well-being. So we're going to focus on that. We'll gear us up for 2026 and Q4. So more information to come on that. But really excited to be with you all tonight as we talk about self-care. We're going to talk about how we can remix that, how we can build a routine that you're going to actually love to do. And it's going to be a routine that you love to do that doesn't break the bank, because sometimes we hear about all of these different things that we can do for self-care. We start to integrate it and then we're like, wow, that took me 5 hours to do, or that was $125 to go get that massage. I have no idea how much massages are, but it can get expensive depending on what we do. So at that point, when things get expensive, we'll talk about this moving forward, it can create barriers for us. So tonight we're going to work to eliminate or reduce those barriers. We're going to find the things that really fill our cup up uniquely and individually. And then we will talk about strategies that we can do, resources and tools and tips and tricks and all of that that's available. So my name is Catherine. I am the owner, the senior wellbeing consultant, and I'm also an author over at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting. I'm also with the Real Life Unplugged podcast, which we'll talk about at the end, but that is a mental and public health well-being podcast that's available on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, and Audible in order to keep these conversations going in the community. Integrated Wellbeing Consulting oversees all of that, and we really work to do two different primary sectors. We have our consulting work, which we work with organizations around employee well-being, recovery-friendly workplaces, recovery programming and supports, collegiate recovery. We do a lot within the mental and physical health realm. And then on the second side of that, we work individually. And we do a lot individually around our well-being and lifestyle coaching program and those services. And that's all offered via telehealth so that we can expand the services that we provide into a multitude of different areas. And so, again, two different sectors of integrated well-being consulting. We've got our podcast, we've got our coaching, and then we also have our consulting work. So really excited that through all that, we can also offer these workshops. Okay, so what are we going to be talking about today? We're going to look at defining what self-care and coping means. We'll talk about the challenges that are there and present and how those can impact implementing self-care. And so we're going to talk about that through a lens of validating, talk about that a lens of that's not judgmental and that instead offers grace and compassion. And we're going to talk about what some of those challenges are as well as it relates to coping. So we'll talk about both sides of that. We're going to talk about strategies that can be utilized to help address these needs. We'll talk about hands-on practice, what some of those things that we can do together. At that point, since this is the recording for today, I'm going to encourage you as we get to those activities to pause the webinar and to engage in some of those strategies on your own. Once you're done, go ahead and restart the recording and we can continue on together. And then we'll talk about some resources, some next steps, and what we can do to connect and learn more together. So the first thing I want to do, and I'm going to tailor this a little bit in how we communicate for any of you who are listening to this on demand. What I want you to do is to, after I ask the question, go ahead and pause, and you can either write down your answers on paper, you can do it on your phone, you can just do it in your mind of how you would answer these. But the first one I want you to reflect on is, what does self-care mean to you? And again, take a moment to just reflect on that. And then the second one is going to be, what does coping mean to you? Wonderful. So hopefully you all have had a chance to pause, to reflect, think about what self-care means to you, what the word coping means to you. And we are going to continue to build on that together throughout the rest of today. So, what I want to do is first validate that if you heard the word self care and you heard the word coping and you thought, same thing, those are the same words, same actions, same everything, you're not alone in that. And so, self care and coping are words that are often used interchangeably in our community and in the mental health and well-being realm in terms of terminology. The two are in fact different. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about what they are, give an analogy that I like, and then talk about the ways in which they're different. And then we will build upon that foundation moving forward. So, first and foremost, self care. When we talk about self care, especially as we're talking about it within the coaching work that we do, we really talk about this from a perspective of prevention, preventative care, maintenance, ongoing practices that we're going to do. I am also a big believer in water and connecting to water for myself personally. And so, because of that, I like to give water analogies, but I often think of self care. And I want you to visualize this with me if you can. But you are in a boat and you are rowing. And right now, when we're talking about self care, that means that we're in that boat and we are rowing when the waters are nice and calm. We're enjoying the peace of things. We're enjoying just being kind of in that neutral state with calm waters. And that is when we think about self care, going to be those actions that we take to keep us in the calm waters. What are those things that we need to do to keep us at baseline, to keep us feeling a sense of calm or peace, or however we identify baseline for us? Now, on the other side of that, as we talk about coping, that's going to be more responsive in nature. We're going to be looking at how we manage our internal and our external stressors and how we're going to manage those to get us back to baseline. So, coping, as it relates to that analogy earlier, is we are now in our boat and the waters are getting turbulent. Maybe we're coming up on some rapids. It's getting a little bit too chaotic, a little too stressful for what we're hoping for this nice, relaxing rowing trip. And so, our coping strategies are going to be the things that we implement to get us back to that baseline. How are we going to return to those calmer waters, that calmer state? How are we going to get back to that area of peace? Typically, again, with coping, it is because it is responsive in nature. Those are going to be things that we are implementing, maybe not ongoingly, like within the prevention of self care. But how are we going to still have those tools in our toolbox so that when we find ourselves, because we will, because we're human, at a place of needing a little extra support to get back to baseline, that we have those tools, those strategies in place. I also, again, I'm a very visual person. Also, within the teaching practices that I do, I'm a big believer in utilizing a multitude of different formats for learning. One of that being, visual, providing analogies and descriptions. And so I also like to think about a lantern as we talk about self care and coping. And so picturing like the lantern that you see on the screen in front of you, it shows you an empty lantern and we're looking at it and it's providing no light. And when we talk about self-care, that's going to be the fuel that's in that lantern, that oil lantern, that allows for your light to shine brightly. It's the stuff that's in there, it's keeping it going, it's keeping the light on. Coping, on the other hand, is going to be what we do to replenish that fuel. So eventually, even if we have all of the self care in place, even if we are doing our well-being practice, we're taking care of ourselves by human nature, we're still going to have times that are challenging. We're still going to have days that feel harder than others where that coping is needed and we're needing to replenish that fuel. We're needing to replenish our cup, get us back to baseline. So again, the two are different. It's how we are taking care of ourselves. It's how we're getting ourselves taken care of at baseline, how we're taking care of ourselves when we may be experiencing a heightened emotional response or stress, and how we're getting ourselves back to baseline. And again, recognizing that all of that is part of the human experience and we need to embrace that, be prepared for that, sit with the emotions and the feelings and work through it rather than running from them and not letting ourselves experience the discomfort that can sometimes come with navigating through that. So, one of the things though, when I'm working with a coaching client, one of the things that I notice a lot when we're talking about self care or we're talking about coping is this understanding and a recognition and validation that a lot of us already know what are those things that we enjoy? What are those things for self care that we want to do? What are those things with self care that maybe we feel like we should be doing? To which case, I often say with that, let's not should on ourselves. Let's sit there and recognize where we're at, appreciate where we're at, celebrate the victories that got us to that point. And then from there, let's think through what are some of those barriers that are keeping us from getting to that point that you feel like you quote should be at. What are those barriers? What are the challenges? How can we uniquely find and personalize an approach for you to help you overcome that? Because what works for me for addressing a barrier may not work for you. And what I always like to say is that we may be in the same storm, but we are, again, water analogy, same storm, but rowing in different boats, and our boats being our resources and things that we have access to, the things that we enjoy. So every way that we talk about the challenges, that we talk about strategies, ways in which we address any challenges or concerns needs to be uniquely individualized to you. But I wanted to provide a general perspective of what we're looking at here. So some examples that I hear often in coaching, again, this is by no means a comprehensive list, is time. I hear often a concern around energy level. I hear accessibility as a concern. I hear awareness, like what are those things that we can do? Internal dialogue, and we'll talk more about that. I don't want to give too much away there. And then I often hear a lot around guilt, shame, all of that. So for each of those, I want to give just a quick tip. Again, today's session is going to be really baseline. Typically, our quarterly workshops that last an hour are going to be a little bit more baseline. We then dive in further one-on-one, but some initial things to think about for each of these barriers. As we talk about time, one of the things I really encourage you to do is to schedule it in onto your schedule like you would a meeting. So block off a time that you feel you are going to not only be able to do that activity, but that you might feel that you need the activity. So an example I like to give here is, let's say I know I've got an important meeting happening at 10 o'clock in the morning. And then following that important meeting, I am teaching from 11 to 12:30. And then I'm going to go into another meeting at 1. And for me, maybe because of the heaviness of the meeting, pouring myself into teaching, and then again at 1 o'clock, that 30-minute window, I have an opportunity to either fill it with work, or I have an opportunity to pour into myself, get back up to baseline so that I can be ready to go at 1. And so if we're talking about how we're going to implement self-care, because again, at this point, we are doing this preventatively, I'm going to put in my calendar a 30-minute time block or whatever it is that you want to manage. And I'm going to schedule in that time for me. And I'm going to pick what that needs to look like for me. So again, it might be making sure that I have a nutrient dense meal and some water to hydrate my body. And I am going to listen to some relaxing music, and I'm going to remove myself from the desk. I'm not going to eat at my desk. I'm going to go and sit outside by the water fountain in the courtyard in front of the building, and I'm going to enjoy a meal out there. Or I'm going to go take my meal outside and I'm going to connect in nature and do some grounding. Or I'm going to go for a walk outside the building. And so scheduling in that time. Now, here is a thing that I like to mention as well is make sure that you don't cancel on yourself. And I often say, just like you wouldn't cancel on a supervisor, just like you probably wouldn't cancel or may not cancel on a medical appointment within the 24-hour window in order to not have the additional fees, for example, don't cancel on yourself last minute either. It's really easy as time gets busy, work gets busy, life gets busy to go, okay, well, this is about me. That is supposed to be, quote, fun. I don't have to do it. And so I could really use that time back in my schedule. So I'm just going to cancel it and I'm going to get some other stuff done. So I'm going to encourage you, again, please don't cancel on yourself. We then have energy levels. And I always say this is going to ebb and flow. It's going to ebb and flow for anyone day to day, depending on stress levels, how well you slept the night before, or even a couple nights before. Is going to be impacted by maybe the weather outside, especially if you're impacted by significant weather changes. Could be even the seasons. There's so many different things that impact our energy levels. So I'm going to encourage you to check for where you're at day to day to balance your day, to find what that means for you. Maybe example of starting your day, getting some vitamin D through sunlight outside in the mornings, enjoying a cup of tea. They often talk about like decaf green tea or spearmint tea in the morning, and getting outside and having some time for you and starting your day off with balance and incorporating breaks into the day and ending your day at a healthy time, whatever that means for you, so that you can have some time for rest and relaxation and have therefore work-life balance. So check in with your energy. Additionally, you can use resources to help see what might be causing changes in your energy level. So again, that could be noticing that if you're not fueling your body with enough nutrients, that your energy is low, or maybe you're not hydrating enough, or maybe you're talking with your healthcare provider and looking at labs that maybe you need to get done to see kind of where you're at and where you go from there. And so track what's available, see what works for you, see what strategies you can implement. Again, we help a lot around that integrated wellbeing consulting through our background in both mental health and community and public health. But see what works for you and start implementing. Give yourself the grace to maybe find things that you don't love and to go, okay, that's not for me, and then keep trying. The next one is access. So finding free and accessible and local resources or resources that are available online. Sometimes knowing what is out there is hard, but it's also hard to go, okay, what is a safe tool? What is evidence-based? What has been updated with the most recent research? What will work for me? What do I enjoy? If transportation, for example, is a barrier, what resources are available online, whether it be telehealth or an online website? What can I travel to with public transportation? There's a lot of things that go into finding and accessing resources, and it can get overwhelming. And we often talk about on the mental health side of the work I do, we talk about even for those of us working in the field, it can feel overwhelming to even navigate that sometimes. And so, again, grace is going to be huge throughout all of these barriers that we're talking about. Allowing for yourself to ask for support, say, hey, I am looking for information and resources on how I can better navigate work-life balance. And so maybe your next step is connecting with your supervisor and asking for resources, or it's your Employee Assistance Program, which stands for EAP. And so finding what that means for you and learning more, trying different things. If you try a resource and you don't love it, make note of that and then try something different. But with that also is coupled as a barriers awareness. And so it's not only having access to those things, again, transportation, funding, time, all of those can be barriers to access, but it could also be knowing, where do you even start? Where do I find that? How do I find it? Where can I go? And what research should I do? And so, again, asking the questions, finding a few of those reputable tools. Again, we've got a lot of resources available with Integrated Wellbeing Consulting that we have vetted, that we have created ourselves to make sure that they are trauma informed and evidence based. Or there's websites like Mental Health America, NAMI, National Alliance on Mental Illness. There's all kinds of different tools out there. Find the ones that you enjoy, find resources from there. The next one, internal dialogue. I get this all the time. If it's not energy or access, it's often coupled the internal dialogue and guilt. Those often will kind of go hand in hand. So some strategies when we talk about internal dialogue of addressing, oh, I don't need it, or I just need to pick myself up by the bootstraps, and it's not bad enough for me to need to do this, or I'm feeling good and so I don't need self-care. Again, using self-care and coping interchangeably. So some things you might consider if internal dialogue is keeping you from applying these strategies is looking at therapy, talking about different phone apps. So examples are Breathe, that is Breethe, and then could be Calm, it could be MioMind, it could be Calm Radio. There's a couple different options there. It could be Balance. So finding those apps that you enjoy. It could be mental well-being or just general affirmations that kind of help provide you some encouragement and some affirming words to help lift your spirits up around whatever barrier you're navigating through. And then I'm going to couple that as well in the internal dialogue and the guilt of looking at workbooks. Workbooks can be great for encouraging you to do reflection, to navigate through what you're experiencing. We do have at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting a workbook available on Amazon. It just released, I don't know, I want to say like June-ish of this year of 2025. It's called Color Your Calmness. I was going to see if I have one with me. Not sure I do, but I will make sure to put that link in with this recording. But using even like a workbook like that, where it's got, mental well-being affirmation coloring pages that are supplemented with a corresponding mental well-being activity. It's got deep breathing activities. It's got well-being strategies. It's got resources. And so workbooks can be a great tool to help guide you wherever you're at through any of those barriers, through your learning and through development and growth around whatever practice or behavior or strategy you're working to adopt into your day-to-day routine. The next one, and again, this often, as I said, couples with internal dialogue, but that is guilt. And I hear this one a lot of a feeling of guilt and selfishness around taking time for self-care and to take time for you. I hear this very often, if not the most common one. And so working on doing some thought reframing around here and going, okay, so I know my schedule is really busy, but I know instead of feeling like I can't take time for me because of that busyness, I know in order for me to show up best for myself, for me to keep myself from getting sick, because stress and high cortisol can lead to physical sickness, in order to keep me healthy, to keep me functioning, to keep me showing up best for myself, for my friends, for my family, for my coworkers, whomever that is for you, that I need to take that time for me and I need to pause and I need to take care of myself. So reframing those thoughts Again, doing so without guilt and shame. So you didn't hear me say as I was doing that reframe, how dare you think that? Or how could you think that? Or why are you doing that all over again? Don't leave the guilt and shame at the door. Accept that as it is. Go, okay, that's part of the human experience that I'm going to have what we call automatic negative thoughts, which is ants that you'll see on the screen. And allowing yourself to go, that's just part of being human. Some of us experience automatic negative thoughts, or the pesky ants, like I like to call them, on a more frequent basis than others. And that's okay. We can sit there and go, okay, I'm hearing that. That's coming from a place of maybe past trauma, or a place of perfectionistic tendency, whatever it might be for you. Recognize that, validate that, accept that you were experiencing that, and reframe and start working through that. You can do that with yourself. You can do that with the support of a coach who's trained. You can do that through the support of a therapist, a loved one who's supportive. But reframing those thoughts without guilt and shame will help so much. Okay, so what would you add to that list? So again, we just talked about the barriers to implementing self-care. I'm going to encourage you at this point to pause the recording, and I'm going to have you think about, in context to what we just spoke to. I'm going to go back a slide. Into context to what we just spoke to, what are those things that align for you? So it can be any of those 6 that we had here. We're like, yes, that is a barrier for me into implementing self-care. And what are those things not listed here that are true for you, that impact your desire, your ability with scheduling, whatever that might be, to make some of these happen? So I'm going to have you pause and do a reflection on that. Okay, so we talked about self-care. We're going to flip the script a little bit. Again, we're going to talk about coping now. Again, there are a lot of barriers here that apply as well. And you're going to notice that even though self-care and coping are separate, we tend to see similar barriers, because whether you're doing self-care or whether you're doing coping activities, it does require you to take some time, some level of time out for you. So barriers that we see, again, time, energy, access, awareness, those you also saw on the self-care side. Some different ones, instant gratification is another barrier that we see a lot when I'm doing coaching or I'm working with individuals one-on-one or in our groups. Again, we do psychoeducational groups and all of that through integrated well-being consulting. And then we also see as a barrier the recognition of the concern. And so what we want to talk about here. So time, we already talked about scheduling it in. That's the same strategy that I will have you do if time is the barrier. But you may also consider, as another way of addressing that, is finding a buddy to do it with. And so maybe it's calling up a friend. You really enjoy connecting to nature. Being in nature is a great way for you to get back to baseline. So maybe it's calling up a friend and you're like, hey, can we go on a walk together out at this park? And maybe we just grab a coffee or grab dinner after. And finding somebody to do it with can help make it easier to not cancel as well. And it can also make it more enjoyable, and it can also build connection. And so a lot of different ways to utilize that to find some protective factors. We then have energy. Again, we talked about that, finding balance, but also with energy is finding the activities that you enjoy. So if I said to you that for your energy levels, I want you to go out, and we know that getting your body moving is a great way to help get your energy levels up. So I want you to go out and I want you to do a nice 5-mile run out at the local park and have fun. That's going to be what your job is for coping today. But you might hear that and go, okay, I don't enjoy running. I really don't want to go to a park by myself. If I don't enjoy it, it's probably going to suck the energy out of you even more. So, but if you hear instead, and this is again where we talk about that individualized, personalized approach that we do at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting with our coaching, is that we may go, yes, there is a lot of research that talks about how getting your body moving really is a great tool, whether it's self care or coping, to help regulate your body, regulate your emotions, to keep yourself mind, body healthy, all of the things. But if you don't enjoy running, why? What is it that you enjoy? Do you enjoy dancing? Do you enjoy going and playing fetch with your dog? Do you enjoy walking around the farmer's market? Do you enjoy rowing? What are those things that you enjoy? Or I might work with someone and go, okay, so in high school, you were a discus thrower and you loved it. So maybe let's look at, if it works within the funding, get yourself a discus and let's find different places that you might go and get back into throwing the discus like you used to enjoy. How can we incorporate those things that brought you joy back into your life and finding ways to get your body moving that makes you smile? And again, when we do movement and we do activities that we enjoy, we're more likely to sustain whatever that routine, that habit, that strategy, that behavior is that we're wanting to do. Because when it feels like homework, when it feels like a task, when it doesn't align with our values or our joys, then it's going to be hard for us to continue to keep it up. We then have access. So getting creative, sharing resources, trying groups. With the groups, I'm going to encourage you to be careful. Reach out to like mental health providers or your coach. Again, that's something that we can do at Integrated Wellbeing. But working with someone to make sure the group is safe. There are a lot of groups available on Facebook that don't self-disclose that they are not moderated, or they're not moderated by a trained professional, and then it can really quickly turn unhealthy really fast. And so with the groups, just be careful. There are some great ones available. We just want to make sure we get you connected with some safe ones. Instant gratification. This one is the biggest one that I hear on the coping side. So again, with coping, we are trying to get ourselves back to baseline, get ourselves regulated. And with that instant gratification, sometimes we want to feel better. Again, human nature. We want to feel better as quickly as possible, because sitting with the discomfort, sitting with our emotions isn't necessarily the most fun thing to do. And so if we aren't feeling like we are feeling better immediately or quickly, we just don't want to do it for some of us. And so what we encourage here to do is get your body moving, again, in ways that you enjoy. Do an activity that engages multiple senses. I'm actually not sure. I've got my work background on behind me, so I'm not sure you'll be able to see it. But looking at different ways to engage your senses. Again, this, oh, good, it kind of picks up. This is a Lifelines. That's the brand. But it is an essential oil stone. I'm going to open it up and see if it works for you all on the camera. This token over here, this little black circle, that's the stone that the essential oils sit in. It shuts so that it doesn't get anywhere. It soaks into the stone, so there's not like an issue with leaking. This front part has like a little, I don't know, hourglass sand feature, kind of fun to watch. But then it's got on the back side some rough edges for sensory, kind of like that grounding stone that you can hold on to. But as we talk about engaging multiple senses, I can smell it just holding it here, but I can also hold it up closer. I can open it for a stronger sense. I can visually watch the sand so I can see that. I can feel the edges that are on there. I can feel the rough backside, the smooth front side. If you are a fidgeter like me, you can also flip it open and shut. So a lot of different things you can do here to activate on multiple senses. I also have, since hopefully you guys will be able to see these now, this is essential oil. I call it my essential oil adult Play-Doh that I just made. It has essential oils in it. You can't really see the color on the screen, but I also put some food coloring in it that made a color that I really find calming. And I typically keep it in the fridge. I personally, I prefer cold weather, cold temperatures, all the things. And so I put it in the fridge and then I get it out. I put it on my desk and then I can use it to fidget with, to make something with, just to have something in my hand. But then again, I'm getting the sensory of it with the touch, the sight, the smell, all the things. Thinking about eating, again, looking at different foods you enjoy, looking at different types of nutrient dense foods, or foods like, example, peppermints can be great for focus. And so maybe it's having some peppermints available with you. Or on the coping side, everywhere I go, I carry these. I have them in my purse. I have them in my work bag. I have them on my desk. That way, when I'm working with clients, they're there. But there is a lot of information and research out there about how sour foods can actually activate the vagus nerve if you're noticing your emotional response heightening. And so maybe it's having warheads available. I don't personally love sour foods at all. Actually really don't like them, but I use them. If I'm noticing like, okay, I need to get back to baseline, what's something that I can do from anywhere? Oh, I've got some warheads in my bag. I will use one of those. And so, however you can engage your senses, and a multitude of those senses can be great. On the awareness side, again, we talked about having conversations, reading different books, whether that be self-help books or looking at websites and information, whatever that is, find different ways to just continue your own learning. And then recognizing the concerns. Sometimes we may not recognize that we are experiencing a mental health concern or heightened emotional response or whatever that is until we reach a certain threshold. And at that point, we may go, okay, this is maybe feeling more like a mental health crisis, or this is feeling like maybe not a crisis, but I'm really elevated. And I wish I had done something to get back to baseline earlier. And it's not because we don't want to, but we may not have that recognition of what we're experiencing. So, looking at different tracking tools, identifying themes, journaling is a great tool, and finding support are a few examples that we may utilize for that. And again, therapy, coaching are amazing to help support that as well, as long as you're working with somebody who is trained to provide that support. So again, as we did with self-care, I'm going to encourage you to pause the video. I want you to look back at I'll go back, the 6 different areas that are considered barriers to implementing coping strategies. Again, this is not a comprehensive list, but what from that list resonates with you as a barrier. And then I'm going to encourage you to also think about what needs to be added to that list as well. And then when you are done with that, I'll have you restart the video. Okay, so let's talk about strategies. And these, it gets really fun when we talk about strategies because there's a multitude of different things we can do. In fact, it was really hard for me to even just put 6 different things on here. But, self-care strategies that we may look at, again, to keep us at baseline is connection and support, proper sleep hygiene, taking breaks, providing opportunities for relaxation, nutrient dense lifestyle. Again, we do a lot with the eating disorder community here at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting. And so I'm a big believer in it's called the HAZE approach, health at every size. We talk about all foods fit, we do all that. But also talking about, different ways that we can make sure that we're getting our nutrients in and fueling our body. We also look at daily journaling. I always encourage people to journal without judgment. So let your feelings go, let them flow on the paper. Don't go back and erase something because you feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have thought that, or, well, maybe that's not really how it went. Just let it all out. Just journal it. keep going, let it flow, let it free flow, and get those things out. And that can help going back to that tracking piece too, is kind of see what are some of those commonalities that we are seeing those trends. And then also practicing gratitude. So there is an app, it's called Gratitude Plus. I actually just downloaded it a couple months ago. And I really enjoyed it. But there are different ways that you can practice gratitude every day. It could be incorporating it into a family meal, however you identify family. Maybe it's through your journaling, you're talking about gratitude. One of the misconceptions we hear with gratitude is that by practicing gratitude or practicing toxic positivity, and that is not at all what we're talking about. But it's finding those things in the day that we can show appreciation for and a level of gratitude and gratefulness for. And so maybe it's been a hard day, but I'm so thankful that I've been able to sit with my puppy as I am busy with work. Or for a long time, my office was was actually based out of a basement and no windows. It had some interesting smells down there. And for a while, my gratitude was when I could go out to a coffee shop. And I was like, okay, workload is high, but I've got a window right here and I'm enjoying that. And so, again, finding those things, those glimmers in your day. Maybe it's really enjoying, you got yourself a special coffee in the morning one day. One of those things that you can show appreciation for, again, friends, family, pets, all the things, sunlight. Um, find those glimmers. And then on the coping side, again, getting your body moving, practicing meditation. Again, as we talk about barriers, one of the barriers to meditation is the misconception that, and again, I had it too before I entered the field, that meditation is simply sitting in a quiet room by yourself that's dark, and that not necessarily sound very fun if you have ruminating thoughts. And so meditation, while yes, it could be that if you enjoy it, it could also be a progressive muscle relaxation. It could be forest bathing. And that is when you go out and you do like a nature walk and you connect mindfully through meditation and a nature setting. There's all different kinds of ways to practice meditation, guided imagery, a lot of different ways that you can utilize that. You also have seeking support and therapy. I encourage this both when you're at baseline and when emotions are high. So if you, let's say, seek therapeutic support and you're doing so because you're navigating a challenge, you may consider, once you get back to baseline, continuing with that. It's always good to have someone to talk with to keep you at baseline. Problem solving, again, we encourage looking at that again from a place of not having judgment, guilt, and shame, but looking at it from a collaborative place of what is the problem I'm looking to address? What support is in place that I can use to help navigate through that challenge? And what can we do to provide support around that moving forward? We then have setting healthy boundaries. Boundaries in and of itself are a great strategy for your own well-being, but also for your relationships. And sometimes we think about when we think boundaries is that we're doing something wrong or we are being controlling or all kinds of different automatic negative thoughts that we talked about can pop up into our brain as we're talking about setting those boundaries. But it really is an act of self-love for both you and also for relationships when we vocalize what those boundaries are. Because again, we want to make sure no one can read our mind. So we want to make sure that we're sharing what those boundaries are. And so that we can have, again, healthy boundaries, healthy relationships, both with ourselves and others. And then also allowing yourself to get creative, whether that be a creative outlet through art, through music, through doing different activities in nature, gardening, whatever that might be, finding ways to be creative, writing, it's highly recommended. So find what that is for you that you enjoy. So my tip to you all as we talk about strategies is to find those things that you can implement that align with your love language. So don't do things that align with maybe what Catherine with Integrated Wellbeing Consulting enjoys, because you may not enjoy what I enjoy. And so what is it for you that aligns with your love language? And so if you love cooking, maybe that's, you integrate that into some of your practices. If you love gardening, how can we make that integrate that into your schedule more frequently? Um, Again, find what you enjoy, and let's look at addressing the barriers that may be present to activating on those, and let's get those incorporated into your routines. A couple different ideas. So we're going to transition a little bit now. Previously, it was more on the educational component. We'll talk about some different activities that you, or different strategies that you may do, different tools. So we have some self-care tool ideas for you. The first one being creating your self-care jar. So for National Self-Care Day, we had released this activity. We'll make sure that you have access to it. You put different self-care ideas into the jar, ideas that you have tried and enjoy, or things that you have not tried but want to try. And one of the other barriers that I hear often, whether it's self-care or coping, is decision fatigue. And going, okay, I know I need to do something. I know I need to implement a strategy, whatever that might be, but I just can't even think about making a decision right now. Or I have 50 different tabs open about what those activities could be. How am I going to narrow it down to one? And if it feels overwhelming to make the decision, then they just don't do it. And that's fair. So this really takes a decision making out of it. And you pull, whether it be a piece of paper with an idea on it, we've done it with popsicle sticks, whatever that might be, pull an idea out, and then you do that activity. And if it's an activity you've not done before and you go, ooh, that wasn't for me, then you just get rid of it. Don't put it back in the jar. Get rid of it. If you liked it, put it back in. And then you just keep using this jar again as a way to reduce some of that decision fatigue as a barrier. This supplements, we've got a list of different ways that you can take a break and practice self-care. So that the other barrier that we talked about earlier, which is awareness of what is even available to do, then you removed that barrier and you go, okay, I can't think of anything right now, but here is this list of 50 different things, of different ways that I can take a break. What from this list do I want to utilize? And so this is a great activity. I encourage everyone to do it. Again, don't put activities on there that you don't enjoy, because then we're defeating the purpose of self-care and coping. But find those things that fill your cup, things that align with your love language and that you want to do. We also are going to encourage you, if you are someone that likes visual learning, maybe you want to do more of a worksheet that you might find to help guide your awareness and recognition of what you're experiencing. Harvard University did release a balanced wellness wheel worksheet. Good luck saying that one fast. But they did release that. And so you can go and you can look at different areas of well-being. We personally at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting use SAMHSA's 8 Dimensions of Wellness. That's what we base all of our work around. But you can look at that. You can kind of rate where you're at and do it on that wheel that you see depicted in front of you on that worksheet. And through that activity, you may have the opportunity to reflect and go, okay, spiritually, with my well-being, I am all the way to I'm feeling great. That whole pie chart, it's filled out. We're doing well. Maybe my occupational, we're halfway full. We're doing okay, but financial, that's pretty empty. So we can look at that not as a place of guilt and shame or judgment, but to see where maybe we need to filter more of our time and our energy and our learning to help get some new strategies to address some of those areas. Because when we look at it, the reason we talk about it as a wellness wheel is because all of these different areas of our well-being are integrated together. That's also how we got our consulting name, how we landed on that organizational name, Integrated Wellbeing Consulting. Because if one of those areas is out of whack, so let's say financially that's drained, we're having a tough time with our financial well-being, we may see then a shift with how our emotional and mental well-being is because of stress levels. Or if financial well-being is out of whack and maybe we're struggling to um, pay for nutrient dense foods at the grocery store or eat enough throughout the day. So then we're having changes in energy levels. We're going to have a change again, also to mental and emotional well-being, but also physical well-being. And so all of this comes together when one of those areas is off. It can be like a wheel where it has one of the spokes broken and it's going to get a little wobbly. Now, it's not to say, if one of the spokes is broken, it feels a little wobbly, that you throw the whole bike out. You go in and you work with a provider, you work with somebody to get some support, and you mend the bike, and you kind of get back on track. And it's okay. It's going to always change. It's going to ebb and flow. But how can we do our best to make sure each of those areas are being supported? We then have a handout that we created specific to tonight's workshop. It's called Self-Care Exploration Handout. It is a 6-page document. You will have access to it. And the first page is all informational. It's about the importance of self-care. What are some self-care tips? What are some resources? How do we find providers? All of that. The next page is a self-care reflection activity. We have an activity around understanding the dimensions of self-care, going back to that wellness wheel. Again, and we utilize SAMHSA's 8 dimensions of wellness with that activity. We have a self-care inventory activity, and then we'll encourage you as that final activity to personalize your own self-care plan. And then at the end of that handout packet, we have information on some resources that are available to you. And so I'm going to encourage you to take that, print the handout packet, and spend some time reflecting on those question prompts, those journal prompts, those activities, building out your self-care plan. There's also a lot of information and resources available online. And so I'm not going to play them for the purpose of today since this is a recording. But these are YouTube video links that are available. So the one that you see in front of you right now is through the Calm app. If you go to YouTube, you can type in Calm app breathing bubble and you will get some available on there. This is when you hit play, you're going to hear some nature sounds. You're going to see the visualized creek going, all of that, the water flowing. You'll see I really do connect a lot with water. I'm noticing that throughout today's session. But you will see that going in the background, and you're going to see movement with this circle that's in front of you. And it's going to tell you, it's going to help guide you through when you breathe in, when you hold your breath, when you release your breath, when you hold, and how you continue that process. What I always tell people here is to do what feels comfortable for you. For some individuals, if for example, if there's an anxiety disorder that's been diagnosed, there can be some discomfort with holding the breath. If that doesn't feel good to you, maybe you don't do the 4-4-4-4 box breathing. Maybe you do 4 seconds of breathing in, 2 seconds of holding your breath, 4 seconds of releasing your breath, 2 seconds of holding, and then continuing the cycle. Do what feels best for you. This should not create a sense of anxiety or panic. You also have access to another tool that I really like. It's 5 minutes, because one of the things that I do, I work a lot with educators. I do a lot with our school staff, and they're like, "Hey, I got passing periods, and it is short, and I get like 20 minutes for lunch. What are those quick things that I can do?" And so this is a 5-minute forest meditation. It's guided imagery. So you close your eyes if you feel comfortable closing your eyes. Again, you can keep them open as well. You get comfortable in a seated position. You can lay down if you want. And then you do visualization that's guided by the person who's facilitating the meditation. And so it's a great tool. Again, I also love it. On a side note, I love it in the winter as well. So if I'm working with somebody thinking about personalization of practices in our coaching, if they love nature, they love being outside, they love green space, all the things. And here where we're at in the Midwest, when it's winter, it's cold. I love the cold, so I am all about that. But not everyone is. It's icy. You might not be getting outside. It's snowy, it's cold, there's not a lot of green. And so this could also be an opportunity available for them to connect to that. It might not be in real time where you're outside physically touching grass, but maybe you're visualizing it with the support of this program. So it allows for some degree of connection to those activities that align with their love language, even if they don't have access to it in real time. YouTube also has available relaxing nature scenes with music. And so, what I like to say here is you can have this available on your phone. If you've got a tablet, you can put it on, or depending on your work environment, if you've got dual monitors, you could use one monitor for focusing in on work. Your second monitor, maybe you've got the relaxing nature scenes playing on the other one. And so finding ways that you can utilize this. Another option is you can play it on your TV if you've got, I don't even know the terminal, like a smart TV, I think is what they're called. But if you're able to have apps available on your TV, you can play this almost like a video picture frame, for lack of a better word. You can just have it playing as you're doing things around the house. And so a lot of different ways you can incorporate this, and you can utilize it with kids, you can utilize it with adults, you can utilize it with anyone. So a lot of different options available there. And then another video, this one I really like. So if you are someone who likes to visually see progress that you're making, to see action happening visually as you are engaging in hands-on activities, color your breathing is a great activity. And so I always tell people to get a piece of paper. It can be long and thin, it could be a normal I don't know my dimensions, like printer paper, and you draw how you're experiencing your breathing. So for example, and again, I'll walk through this real quick, but I will have the link for you available. As you are breathing in, you're going to draw upwards. As you are breathing out, you're going to bring your color back down. And you're going to, so as you're breathing, you're seeing the speed in which, the pace in which you are breathing. And you can see how rapid it might be when you're initially doing it. Then you're going to incorporate relaxing music. Maybe it's a meditation, maybe it's a breathing activity. You're going to change the color of whatever you use first. You're going to keep that for the first time. You're going to do a different color as you incorporate meditation or music. And you're going to see how your breathing has changed as you are integrating meditation, music, calming strategies. You're going to visually see your breath slowing down. And so this is a great way to be hands-on with your learning, to practice breathing activities, mindfulness, music, all of that, but to also learn in different formats through visually seeing that change. Other resources that are available to you, we do have some healthy living groups. We're actually in the process of changing that group. And I will talk more about that here soon. We've got our mental well-being phone apps that we recommended. We've got Calm, Breathe, Finch, Oak, I Am Sober, Headspace, Down Dog, Mind, all kinds of Gratitude Plus. Look at that list. You can pause the recording, write down what you might be interested in trying. NAMI Johnson County, while they are specific to Johnson County in Kansas, anyone anywhere can view their learning on demand learning platform. And so I encourage you to go to their YouTube page. We provide the links for this as well, but they've got their learning workshops, they've got on demand activities, all kinds of great things there that you can do. There's also some great books out there. So Activate Your Vagus Nerve. We've got Where to Start, a survival guide to anxiety, depression, and mental health challenges, the gifts of imperfection, upside of stress, burnout. If you like learning through reading, a lot of great books out there. But again, make sure you look into the books to make sure that they are written by somebody who has training, academic training to provide a lot of that insight because we want to make sure the book remains safe for you to read. There's also podcasts. We're actually not, I forgot to update that slide. We're not on there, but I encourage you to check out the Real Life Unplugged podcast. We have guests come in. We also do solo episodes, which is just me and you having a conversation about something related to mental health, public health, just more educational with that. The times that we bring guests in, that's going to be more like lived experience stories. It's going to be stories from people in the field. So the Real Life Unplugged podcast is one I encourage. I also encourage the Piece of Me podcast, Therapy Thoughts, We Can Do Hard Things, the Mel Robbins podcast, all kinds of options there. And then organizations, again, NAMI, we have Reclamation Clubhouse here in Johnson County. I know we have a lot of people attending tonight here in the Kansas City area, so I wanted to include that. But also checking in with your school districts. What resources are there? Do you have community mental health centers in the area? Do you have a NAMI affiliate program that's available? Do you have other nonprofits that work to stand in that gap, whether that be community health or public health or mental health? So find what's available to you. Look for support groups. If you're an individual in recovery, look for whether it be online or in-person AA or NA meetings or eating disorder support group meetings. Again, vetting to make sure that they are safe and reputable and going to provide safe care. But organizations are a great tool to have in your back pocket. We also have information available on virtual relaxation rooms. Those are going to be websites that maybe have videos to zoo cameras or different meditations or mindfulness or art therapy activities. In fact, our recovery website, which is available for anyone, whether in recovery or not, is recoveryIWC.org. And we have a lot of those links available on there as well. But in one place, one-stop shop, you can go with those virtual relaxation rooms and find different activities that are available. I also encourage people to look at their daily living routines. And so looking at sleep hygiene, looking at keeping your body nourished and hydrated, getting your body moving in ways that you enjoy, looking at journaling, activating your vagus nerve, work-life balance, getting sunlight. And so really looking at comprehensively supporting your whole self. And then other options for further learning. We talked about NAMI, we talked about Mental Health American Psychological Association, SAMHSA, the 988 Lifeline, Your Life, Your Choice, Shatterproof, all kinds of different options that are there. MySafetyPlan.org. All of those are available to you to kind of help find additional resources and support. For integrated wellbeing consulting, we have a wide range of resources available to you as well. As I said earlier, we are changing our groups over, so I will provide a link. But really happy to say, I believe it was actually yesterday, we on August 11th, I guess if you're watching this later on, August 11th of 2025, we just released our new Wellbeing and Lifestyle Facebook group. That group is available. It's called Life by Your Design. It is not a coaching group. I want to make sure that I mention that. At Integrated Wellbeing Consulting, our coaching is a service, whether it be individual or group. This is going to be more for us to share resources, ideas, and strategies from a general perspective to individuals. It's free for anyone to join. We'll share at times mental well-being affirmation coloring pages or a free resource download. Again, at Integrated Wellbeing Consulting, if we developed it using evidence-based practices, trauma-informed practices. If we are sharing something that somebody else developed, we will make sure that those same standards are being met. We also, as I said, have our individual, group, and consultations available. So individual and group coaching, individual consultations. We do this through our well-being and lifestyle coaching services. We do all of this via telehealth, which I talk about on that bullet point below. We do telehealth for the purpose of expanding the service reach that we have. It also allows for us to eliminate the barrier of access. So we do have that available. We use a HIPAA compliant platform. We try to make it as soft and welcoming as we can, being a online platform. But that's available. We have 30-minute appointments, we have 1-hour appointments, and then we have the ability for people to schedule longer appointments if needed. We focus in on a lot of different things, whether it be recovery, whether it be mental health or community health. We can do things around life and work-life balance, stress and anxiety tools and practices, whole person well-being strategies, trauma-informed health education. We talk about ways in which that we can address sleep hygiene, or if you're working with a therapist, what are maybe some of their strategies that they want you to work on, but you're noticing barriers, and then we can help come alongside and go, okay, so this is the plan that your therapist has provided you with. Let's talk through some ways that we can help make that happen. So our coaching practices, even though I am trained both in mental health, school mental health, community and public health, we are not offering this as a clinical service. Again, we do that so that we can keep this broad in terms of our reach. So we can work with people in Minnesota, we can work with people in Texas. We can keep it broad with that. Again, though, I am trained in providing this kind of support. So I want to make sure that I mention that as well. This is not to remove and replace mental or physical health care. It is to supplement that, is to be a tool to help stand in that gap, to provide individualized strategies and practices, and to be part of your care team. So really excited that we're rolling this out. It's all based in compassion, non-judgment, trauma-informed practices, and we lean into your strengths. We really have a strengths-based approach in all that we do. Additional resources available to you. Again, we've got the 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. You can call and text 988. They also have their online chat at 988lifeline.org/chat. That's available there. There is also NAMI helpline. You can also go to nami.org/help for more information. But please, again, do know that you're not alone. Help is available. Connect with individuals. Again, if you prefer to pick up a phone, for example, to talk about 988, if you prefer to talk with someone by phone, you can call. If you don't want to audibly, verbally talk with someone, you can text 988. If even text feels daunting, or maybe you don't have access to a phone, but you do a computer, you can do your online chat. And sometimes chat feels a little bit more removed to where you're still getting supportive care from a crisis counselor, but you're able to do it by typing. So a lot of different ways to get support. Please know that you are not alone. Support's available, help is available, and you're worthy of that 1,000%. And you don't need to face whatever you're facing, good times or challenging times, alone. Our final challenge, I always like to wrap up with this as well, is that, and we do this really because I want you to continue to think about what we've talked about today beyond our session. And so my challenge, you can choose to accept none of them, one of them, all of them. It's really up to you. Power of choice here. The first one being to take time for self-care, coping. This says tonight, because I was pre-sitting tonight, but tonight during the day, whenever you're listening, within that 24-hour window, take time for you. It can be 5 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it is that you can manage. I'm going to encourage you to create your mental health safety plan. So I mentioned mysafetyplan.org. You can create a safety plan template that's available on that website. We also have some available for you. But when you're at baseline, when things are feeling okay for you, whether you do it individually or you do it with the help of a supportive individual, whether that be family, friend, therapist, school counselor, develop that safety plan template. I'm also going to encourage you to build your self-care and coping toolbox. So as I said, I'm looking around on my desk, I have for myself, a self-care and coping toolbox available in multiple rooms in my home. I have it at my office. I have one in my car. I also do a lot of work in the community. And so I have those available. So some things that I have, for example, in mine that I keep, I have peppermints always. I've got decaf tea, things that won't go bad being in there, dark chocolate that can be really helpful as well, with the antioxidants. These are actually really fun. I'm really excited about these. But these are like little lava pins. These are also from that company Lifelines. Let me see if I can, hopefully you can see that pick up on the screen a little bit. They're like little lava pins that you can take with you, and they actually have essential oils within them. So as you are writing with the pins, I think they're all black, or no, that's not accurate. Sorry. The pin color coordinates with the color of the liquid in here. So green, red, blue, purple, orange. So a pack of 5 you can get. And then the essential oils are in there. So as you're writing, as you're doing your journaling for the day, or if you've got a stressful meeting, and you're wanting to have some essential oils diffused, again, keeping in mind the other people within that context. Some people get headaches, but I have these on hand for me. I've got that grounding essential oil stone. I have my essential oil Play-Doh that I made. Again, that was really cheap for me to make. And it was fun. I'm someone who enjoys cooking. So I had that align with my love language. And so find what it is for you. I was going to see, I used up my other stuff, but those are just some examples. Have that available for you. Oh, and pictures. I have some pictures that I won't show, but family and friends, I have those available too. So have those things available with you that are accessible, so that when you're experiencing a heightened emotional response, you don't have to go digging for something to do, because you may not be in the headspace at that time to do that. So keeping those accessible is something I highly recommend. And then the last challenge that I leave you with is to work through your self-care workbook that I mentioned earlier. That is the 6-page document, self-care exploration, handout, and activities. And to make sure I said the name of it right. We'll provide that to you. That's going to be the reflection activity, building your self-care plan. I'm going to encourage you to do one of those activities, if not multiple. Don't do it all at once. That can feel overwhelming. Space it out. Maybe start with one activity or even one portion of the activity, and build from there. But I'm going to encourage you to go back, review that, and spend some time there. And so that really concludes our workshop for today. Again, we're really excited that you were able to join us for our Q3 of 2025 workshop on the self-care remix. Hopefully you were able to get some new ideas from today, something that maybe a new strategy, a new practice, a new resource. That was really our hope. If not, hopefully you also heard from today validation that you can keep trying to learn new things. You don't have to spend a lot of money to make things happen, to find peace and joy, self-care and coping. So find what that is for you. It can be accessible, and it can be affordable, and it can be enjoyable. So all that information is available to you. If you have questions on resources, we have that tab available for you. You can also email us. Our general email is talkwithiwc@gmail.com. We have multiple websites. Our primary website is integratedwellbeingconsulting.org. Right now, our coaching information is not online. So you can always email us directly if you want to get integrated with our coaching services. We're happy to connect you there. We also have www.recoveryiwc.org. That's going to be really recovery focused on resources and support. We also have our Etsy online resource store. So that's that link is on there as well, where you can buy resources around mental well-being, family activities, all of that are digital downloads, which allows for us to make it more affordable. We have our Facebook page. That handle is Integrated Wellbeing Consulting. We have our Healthy Living group. So again, that's called Life by Your Design. That information is there as well, that direct website URL. You can find us on Instagram at integrated wellbeing underscore consulting. Actually, our Facebook one handle just changed. So that's been just now be integrated wellbeing. I apologize. And then TikTok, and we are finally integrating a little bit more on TikTok. I held back for a while on that, but you can find us at integrated wellbeing there as well for information on activities, podcast updates, free resources, all of that. So please do connect with us. Know that you're not alone on your journey. We're here to provide support and encouragement. Again, if you want to get incorporated with our well-being and lifestyle coaching services, we would love to work with you individually to be part of your team in helping provide you with support. So reach out at any point. Again, our best email for us is talkwithiwc@gmail.com. And wishing you nothing but the best as you finish out your day, the week, the year, wherever you're listening to this. Wishing you nothing but the best on your journey. And thank you so much for joining us for tonight's workshop.